tonight's topic, spotting red flags.
What's up, Blueprint family? How y'all doing out there? Instagram and YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. We got a special show for you all tonight. Like my wife said, we're going to talk about spotting red flags early. So, what you want to do um, in relationships, one of the important things is making sure that you don't make yourself a fool for somebody else by ignoring red flags. And then also for those people who are trying to manipulate other people, we're going to show the what do you call it, the victims on how to
What to look out for.
what to look out for and how to call you out on your stuff. So we're going to call you out and spot those red flags that you're presenting in relationships because you're not dating with the intention on being married. So with that being said, last night we got into how to pick the right spouse. And then one of the big things we talked about in that video last night, and if you get a chance to, please check it out, and put a like on that video.
How to
once
pick
you
the
do
right
it.
spouse.
Yep, that was the video. Exactly how to pick the right spouse is so make sure to take the time out to recognize if you are actually paying attention to the red flags early. If you are finding that people you date turn out to not be who you thought they were, what red flags did you miss? Sometimes people really want a relationship and they don't pay attention to the red flags and constantly get themselves in bad situations. Those are the fools. You make yourself a fool. What was it, that song, Why Do Fools Fall in Love? Don't be a fool in love, and don't try to. I mean, I know people who are, just hurting to get into a good relationship. They will just waste their time on people and then come to find out that, oh, this is all about money. This is all about a waste of time. Unfortunately, we, in today's social media, you may see these situations happen to um, victims of modern women. Those beta male mentalities. You guys are getting played. If you let yourself get played, you're going to get played. And unfortunately, the topic of passport bros. Those guys out there think they, looking for love. Ultimately, maybe gaming these foreign women, and ultimately, what happens? They get gamed. They get gamed too in the end. So what we're gonna do, because I mean, if you go to another country, expecting to find a wife, there's red flags there too. So all of this information is universal, and you can apply it to your relationship that you have now, or a up and coming relationship that you may be encountering soon. So that's what we wanted to show you all. We're gonna give y'all some game tonight on how to spot these red flags and hope that these things don't happen to you. But if they are happening to you, you're in luck because you're gonna be able to figure this out and call them out on their stuff. Like, you better stop doing this to me. you know. So yeah, so hopefully you all can you listen, enjoy the show, and follow along. Um, it's important to know which behaviors are red flags so that you can avoid inflicting these hurtful behaviors on other people and take the action needed to protect yourself when
Also,
others behave that walks towards you.
well, I think
What
I
that
was
means.
talking about when making sure that you're not inflicting those behaviors onto other
Behaviors.
people.
Okay.
Yeah. That was exactly what I was about to say. Like, just making sure not to inflict those other people behaviors onto other people as
Right.
well. That's huge, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as of, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, the term red flag as far as relationship, unheard of. You know, um, young guys are just coming up trying to, get all they can out of women, and women are doing the same thing to them.
Yeah.
Vice versa. Everybody's just trying to gold dig each other and manipulate, and there's a lot of toxic stuff going on in relationships. Um, I can't say, today. These things have been going on for a long time as far as toxic relationships are concerned. Um, and so most of us determine what feels normal in a relationship based upon the way we saw people relating when we were growing up. So,
Mhm.
this think of relationships that you've seen growing up, whether it was your parents or your uncles, aunts, or maybe you were dealing with, boyfriends and girlfriends, those type of relationships that didn't end up being anything. Even early relationships, in high school boyfriend and girlfriend relationships. So just think about, reflect on those relationships and the outcomes
Yeah.
and what happened. Unfortunately for many people, um, these interactions always filled with
Can lead
can lead. What is it? At? Can you go ahead? Go ahead, honey.
Sorry, that was a typo.
Yeah, that's
Can
a
lead us
typo.
to behaviors that make us think that some behaviors are okay when they're not, because of how we grow up and we don't know that these behaviors are unhealthy. So we go and we take in these behaviors thinking that this is the right way to do things and have a relationship or communicate in a relationship or even go about meeting a spouse.
Right.
And instead, these are unhealthy behaviors, and we end up pushing away a spouse or losing the relationship because we don't really know how to maintain a good relationship. So
Right.
yeah,
Most definitely.
those examples are really important. I think you mentioned that in a couple of videos before, how we learn by examples, because
Right.
we really do. And if you don't see an example of what a healthy marriage looks like, sometimes it can be really hard for you to even visualize it for yourself.
Right. Or either we just miss the message altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not around healthy relationships, then and you see one, you may just ignore it, or you may ignore the person that actually means good to you, and then you just go for the bad, Pookie and Ray Ray that's out there, the gangbanger and all this other stupid stuff
Yeah.
that women choosing the wrong person, as we talked about in our previous videos. So what we're trying to do is prevent all of that. There's ways to circumvent all of that, and we're going to give you some game tonight.
And yeah, just because by knowing what these red flags are, like my husband mentioned, you're able to recognize them and then prevent yourself from doing them to other people and protect yourself from having them done to you. So
And then
let's get
hold on,
started. Oh, yeah.
but also more importantly too, for all the fathers out there, if you are raising a young boy or a young daughter, give them this information. Mothers, single mothers that's out there, provide this information to your children. It's never too late to give them proper guidance about relationships, even though they haven't been exposed to one. At least you told them. That's where a lot of that's what happened to us in our generation, our parents' generation before that, was that, like my wife said, no examples. We didn't have examples of good relationships. But the Blueprint Family Jewels show, what we're trying to do is set examples, give you tips, and if you follow them, you have no choice but to find someone who's meaning good by you, and and then you can recognize these signs and then form good relationships. Ultimately, the motto is to get married and have children. So with that being said, um go ahead, we're gonna go ahead, but before we do, it's not too early for us to ask you to go ahead and hit that like, and then also subscribe, because we do be dropping jewels Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m. every night. So let's go ahead and dive in,
Okay.
shall we? All right. So red flags. You want to read it, honey?
Oh, sure. Okay. The first one, contempt. Contempt can be camouflaged as sarcasm, being condescending, having hurtful humor, insulting or making fun of someone that you know are in a relationship with. That's not kind. Having contempt. Things that also make a person feel like you believe you're more superior than they are. that can also too come off as contempt. That is a big red flag because that person may believe that they have something over you and then try to, it'll turn into another ripple effect of more abusive behaviors in a
Right.
way.
That reminds me of that video that we talked about with competing with your spouse. Contempt can turn into that when the victim gets tired of you making fun of them or joking with them, is going to harbor this attitude of, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna get
Yeah.
even with you. And that's where you get a whole bunch of craziness going on, cheating,
Yeah.
infidelities, stealing in relationships,
Yeah.
small things that we get tired of in relationships without proper communication can lead to bad habits and ultimately abusive situations.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of contempt, like my wife said. um and it's having fun and poking jokes. I like to do that with my wife. you know I don't mean anything, no harm by it at all.
There's a difference though
Right,
between that,
right. But
innocent jokes and maliciously poking fun and
right,
trying to make your spouse feel little
right,
or feel like something's
inferior.
wrong with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And we
Mhm.
see this type of behavior with modern women. I don't mean no harm. Modern women, especially on both spectrums, low spectrum and on the high spectrum, thinking that they're have with an alpha mentality that they're better than you, and
Mhm.
I'm better than you because I make more money. I'm better than you because I drive a better car than you. You don't have anything. Da da this, da da that.
The sarcasm,
Right.
the hurtful humor, very, well, if I can do it, why can't you?
Jew.
You ain't.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very, that sarcasm can be very hurtful.
Right.
And it's definitely not helpful in a relationship, and a major red flag if your spouse is constantly doing that, or somebody that you're courting is constantly doing that.
Right.
Big red flag. Yeah.
Right. That's a communication issue.
I think a lot of these are.
Yeah, that's
probably.
a bad communication issue. Instead of using contempt as a language, help each other out. Actually be a team. If you're the one that's giving out the contempt, then try being encouraging. Just do the opposite. My goodness, we had the maturity video last Friday, and we talked about maturity in relationships. Contempt is a lack of maturity.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because also too, you feel like, I don't know, kind of you're resentful. Like, why, if I'm doing this, how come you aren't doing it? And
Right.
That shame on you for not doing that. So
I know. I know how that feels. And that is abusive in relationships. It only goes downhill from there when it doesn't stop. To be honest with you, it does. I mean, so if you find yourself in that situation, that's the number one red flag that we have so far. Contempt. So that is subtle, though. For those younger relationships out there, pay attention to that type of stuff, because that will, pay attention to that, communicate about it. If it doesn't go away, maybe you all are not compatible. I'm just going to be, or either maybe your spouse is not mature enough to move forward in a committed relationship with you. That is something that you really need to consider before things get worse, before you go off and have children with this person. You think that is bad now, as far as the contempt. If you all haven't fixed that situation, you all can get through it, even if you all have children. But that's a dice roll. Like we always say, you can't change people. People have to find it within themselves to change. I could see that possibly having a child, and if it's the father of the child that's is throwing contempt at you, then they might mature up, man up, and change and say, I'm gonna be a better man. Because that is something that is small, but if it's ongoing, then you all got a problem.
Well, it can be small.
Yeah, it starts off. It can be small, but yeah, it can be something big too. Talking about weight. If you have a partner that's keeps complaining about making fun of your weight. I believe in staying fit, being healthy and staying fit. And if your partner is not doing anything to help you to lose weight, that is an issue too. Poking fun and making fun of you because of your weight, that's not right. It's not
being kind in the approach of helping you to address an issue. that's an issue.
Right.
Because a loved one wants you to be healthy so that you can be in their life, you know, for a long time. So yeah, it's very important not to be hurtful, even, especially in times like that when you're trying to help a better someone like your spouse.
Right. Most definitely.
Yeah. Well, the next one, number 2, suspicion. That's a big one. And also, maybe some people don't really think of that as a red flag because it can be disguised as, oh, they care about me. Oh, they love me, you know?
What do you mean by
But
suspicion?
suspicion, I'm glad you asked, stems from not believing that someone has your best interest at heart. It can show up as attempts to track whereabouts, control behaviors, or limit your relationships with other people, or especially your relationships that are really healthy and supportive, trying to kind of separate you from your other supportive relationships, but masking it as I don't trust that person, you know, like they don't mean you no good, you know, but this is someone that you may have known your whole life that has meant you good, you know, just little things like that.
Like
But
your parents or something?
I don't know, maybe it could apply, maybe, but you know, sometimes your spouse can recognize if you're you might have grown up in an abusive relationship and you know, parent wise, and you didn't know that, you know, your parents kind of doesn't communicate in a very healthy way. Like, you know, is this something that's common, you know? So yeah, that's definitely a double-edged sword. It can be seen that way for sure. But I think this is more so talking about like if somebody is overly suspicious, like, let me see where you going, what you're doing, who you hanging out with. Oh, I don't trust that person. Don't hang out with them. Da 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 da. And they don't even know, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big red flag. Commonly, like they're trying to control you and, you know,
Right.
stop you. Yeah.
That's almost that sounds like being a hater. So for layman's terms, to me that sounds like, you know, if your spouse is being a hater towards you and they don't like you being around supportive people, then by far everyone knows what a hater is. Get away from the haters. We don't like haters.
That's a good spin on that.
Yeah, I mean that's what it sounds like to me. That's why they ask you what suspicion. What you meant by suspicion? Because to me, suspicion sounds like somebody who's always saying,
"Are you know me?"
Yeah, exactly.
What would you been
assuming
last night?
someone who's assuming about the relationship. That's what it sounds like to me. So yeah, but someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. So if you're definitely dealing with somebody who don't have your best interests at heart, you really need to separate from that person.
Red flag.
Yeah, you can talk about it, communicate about it. If they don't change, and recognize those situations that's going on, then yeah, you need to recognize that as a red flag and keep it moving.
Yeah. Number 3, lack of communication. So this can mean shutting down during discussions with emotional distance, like the silent treatment, or like, I don't want to talk about this no more. Like, you know, just refusing to talk about a situation anymore. Or even just like changing the subject. I mean, like, oh, you know, who said we were talking about that? We're not talking about this, you know. Yeah. So just all around
deflecting.
Yeah, exactly. Having a lack of communication. That's a big red flag. It can also come off as trying to dominate the conversation. Like, so when you're talking to somebody, if you're noticing that they're just never letting you talk or letting you express yourself or listening to you, really just talking, not even paying you any attention, that's like a big, you know, red flag.
Yeah, that means they're not listening. They're not active listening. You want to be clear and present with people when they're talking to you, especially about, you know, situations in your relationship. That means proper eye contact and not talking when someone else is talking. You know, so focus on being clear and present. But yeah, most definitely shutting down.
Yeah.
When something goes wrong. You know, ladies and gentlemen, don't shut down, you know, while there is an issue to be addressed. Calmly talk about it. Rectify the situation and then resolve it. You know, find common ground about it. Or either if it's just, you know, your feelings hurt, express that your feelings were hurt and apologize. You know, why people don't like to apologize anymore. You know, I hear that a lot, you know, like the alpha female or either the alpha male mentality. They don't like to apologize. You know, they don't like to be seen wrong. But it's you know, apologies go a long way, especially in relationships. You know, you don't have to people don't have to suffer, and then you leave them hanging when you know that you were wrong,
Mhm.
so we had that maturity talk on Friday. So when you know that you're wrong in a situation, you apologize and say you're sorry for hurting someone's feelings, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, that's a red flag when there's a lack of communication and shutting down during arguments or discussions.
Or running away, like even the beta female
Mhm.
who would shut down and run away from a conversation because she wants to avoid the confrontation. That's very, unhealthy as well, because you will tend to harbor all of that in and then act out later on.
Right.
So that can really, kind of backfire in a way, because you just build up all this anxiety and tension within, and then
Right.
eventually it has to come out. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And then it's
just
going
not
to
doing that.
explode on your spouse or your partner, and you're going to be like, what happened? Where
Yeah.
all of this coming from?
Yeah, or it's
It's a
really bad. It can
right.
be really, really, really
And
bad.
more than likely it's going to happen on a full moon like tonight.
Oh gosh.
So you all guard your emotions, guard your feelings,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
practice proper communication and apologies and saying you sorry
Right.
when things get bad.
Right.
But yeah, but for real talk, yeah, moon so what is it? Lunar cycles are a thing. So pay attention to that too.
Yeah, when the crime goes up around a full moon
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
there's a reason why they said werewolves come out during full moons. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
The beast comes out at night on the full moon. So be careful, people out there tonight.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
um, and then 4, dishonesty can show up both as knowingly telling untruths or it can be withholding information.
Mm-hmm.
I think withholding information is probably more detrimental than knowingly telling untruths. I think that's probably both the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to come back from dishonesty. You have to
Yeah.
build trust again. Trust is something that's earned. Everybody say that, right? You have to earn my trust.
Mhm.
And that goes on, both men and women. Dishonesty in a relationship is it puts the brakes on the relationship.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard for someone to redeem themselves if they always doing things that's distrustful and dishonest.
Yeah.
So be mindful of your relationship, be mature enough to control yourself, your hormones and your emotions.
Mhm.
Be mindful of all of that. Being in a relationship takes a lot of mindfulness.
Mhm.
And you can prevent dishonesty and disloyalty in a relationship by being mindful of yourself and also who you and being mindful of your spouse. What will happen if I do this? you know be accountable for your actions. Be accountable for your actions and prevent situations of dishonesty.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that any other way. An example: don't cheat on your spouse. Don't do anything to try to even what do you call it? Try to have that situation to come about around
Mhm.
you. People hitting you up in your DMs, delete them. You know, get in the habit of telling your spouse, like, look, this person in my damn DMs. You know, again, I just want to let you know because I ain't trying to, I ain't doing nothing. You know, But if you going back and you having, side conversations with this person, letting them know everything in your relationship, you're being dishonest and you're withholding information from your spouse.
Yeah.
And that's dishonest.
Yeah. Lack of communication will result in dishonesty ultimately, because you're
Lack
refusing
of
to
self-discipline,
definitely,
self-control, emotional
definitely.
and awareness and lack of mindfulness will lead to dishonesty,
Yeah.
And then, lack of loyalty. So, yeah, don't be dishonest. That's an ultimate deal breaker.
Big
In
red
relationships.
flag. Yeah.
Big red flag. The relationship over when people start being dishonest. It's harder to redeem yourself in a relationship and earn that loyalty as opposed to starting a new relationship with somebody you don't know anything about,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you.
True.
But it takes a real man or woman to want to redeem themselves and then build that trust again.
Yeah.
And it is, I've learned that from experience.
Yeah. That is so true.
And number 5, impatience. Impatience is demonstrated by frequent frustration with the natural ebb and flow
Of life.
of life, or having expectations that are unrealistic or inappropriate.
Yeah.
Impatience.
Big red flag, which is something I think is a red flag that people can improve on within themselves. Because, like we said, when it comes to red flags, it's good for you to be not only aware of them so you don't allow them to happen to you, but also so that you don't do these things to other people. So
Right.
just being mindful of those moments where I'm being impatient and I may be being difficult and I'm, coming off, a little bit too much because I can't, deal.
But also too, this reminds me of those, especially the unrealistic expectations, ladies. And one example is when women get into relationships and they expect the man to pay for everything.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into a relationship, understand that a relationship is measure for measure. You get what you put in it and out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So women, if you all are being courted by men and they're paying for everything and you're not providing them with nothing on dates or anything, it's not reciprocated, the energy is not reciprocated that you all are trying to build, then that is a red flag for you, to be honest with you. That once that man finds somebody who he can share that same energy with, that vibe with, he's paying, he's buying you stuff, and then all of a sudden there's another girl that's giving him the time of day who's actually showing interest, you're going to lose that man, bottom line, because that man's going to be tired of trying to pay for you, your lifestyle, getting your hair done, your nails done, paying your car note, your rent, and all that other stuff, and he's not getting anything from it.
And just impatience too, with understanding that we're all human and we're all growing.
Right.
So a lot of times, if you are an alpha woman and you got it all together right now and you don't need a man for nothing right now, but you come across someone who is a beta male and you see that he has potential, as much as we like to say, oh, I don't want to love on potential, it's okay to see the best in somebody when they may not be the best. You want God to look at you like that, right? So I mean, it's okay to impart that love upon somebody else and be patient with them as they grow along the way. Now, I'm not saying that, okay, if you don't see any progress or anything like that, of course, that's up to you to, of course, pay attention, mindfulness, note when things aren't progressing as they should, of course. But definitely be patient and showing some grace with the fact that, okay, a man may not have it all together right now, but I'm able to, be resourceful, work with what we have together, we can put together, and then maybe one day I can be a stay-at-home wife or whatever I aspire to be, have businesses with my husband, whatever it is that you aspire to be. If you can just be patient within the moment and practice that appreciation and that love for where you are at right now with your spouse and the person that you're dating, then it can really grow into something beautiful. So, and patience can really kind of stunt you as well. So I think that's why it's up here as a red flag, especially if you get a woman, like you were saying, or a man, like, who just wants you to have it all together and don't want to show you no grace. Like, oh,
right,
get it together right now. You got to have it like that. That's a red flag. Like, truth be told, everybody deserves that.
And then here's a secret. Can I put a secret out for the impatience part? If you all really are that impatient as far as relationship go, women, the secret is, and if you want more money in your relationship and you're really trying to get someone who has more money, naturally men make more money as they age. Maybe the age range that you're dating in is not working for you as far as finding a provider and a protector. Think about that. And we talked about, you don't necessarily date somebody based on looks and then dating wrong and picking wrong. Naturally, men who are older make more money. So there's single men out there who are older. You never probably really thought about dating an older man per se. And it may be unattractive, but that's what that is where you're going to find your best success at, more than likely, if that's what you're interested in.
With
You know,
husband mentality,
with
true
right.
husband
And if
mentality.
you're
Yeah.
dating with intention,
Yeah.
don't just be a gold digger out here. What Rob said, I'm gonna find an older man. So that's what I'm gonna do tonight.
He
Find an
got the
older
money.
right. That's where the money at. Older men. Damn, I ain't know that. And you gonna hit
No,
up.
they did. Women have definitely known that, but like,
Right.
don't sugar daddy it out. We're not
Yeah,
telling you
nah.
to.
We're trying to build families here and relationships. And for younger men, younger men, the impatience part. Unfortunately for men, like I said, your value increases as you get older. So you got to have patience. Get all your cards lined up. Have your house. Have your income that can support two salary, your 2 salary income, so that you can have a wife at home if you choose to, or either your wife can work. That's something that you all have to communicate about and talk about. But at least have a home to set up a family in. Don't be living with your homeboys. Don't be living with your mama. Don't live with granny and then trying to expect to find a wife and then move in with the woman, because that's that lady's house. That's the woman's house.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to be the head of the household, no, that's her house. She's gonna be running things. She's gonna be running you in that household. And if you think that you're gonna come into a woman's house and tell her how to run things, you got the game all messed up. So you need to go ahead and hit that like and subscribe and follow Blueprint Family Jewels, so that you can follow us to a successful family, and ultimately, turning yourself into a boy, into a man.
Yes. Also, too, this is a call-in show, so call in and let us know your experiences, because this is also a platform where we want to highlight the positive things that have happened in people's relationships that worked for them. What red flags did you recognize that you got out of quick? You got out and dodged a bullet. Let somebody else know so that they can also look out for this as well. Let's be positive in this and help work towards solutions.
Right, because we all learn from experience, or maybe you can take this time out. You can use us as therapy. So if you want to call and vent to us and talk to us about your situations and things you've gone through, let us know. We're here to help.
Because somebody can learn from it.
Right, truly, most definitely.
Honestly, yeah.
People can learn from it, and then also too, if you want to leave us a question, go ahead and leave us a question in the chat, or either like my wife said, is hit the link and then join in on the conversation.
Yeah.
Or leave submit a question on the wifeconomics.com website.
Next is back to our spotting red flags, and it's rigidness. So rigidness is expecting things to be a certain way regardless of circumstances, anything that's going on. Things just have to be this way, and there's no deviating from it at all.
Right.
That's a big red flag. And I see this when I watch, I don't know if this is all the time, but when I watch like some of these people's TikToks and stuff, they're like, oh, this person got to be just like this, or has to have this exactly. Things have to be done just like this. And it's like, dude, like, is that really how you're going to merge two lives together? Because that's ultimately what you're doing when you're creating a relationship. So red flag, because how is that even going to happen? You're not interested in merging a life together and coming together and creating a, great thing. You're more so just, and no, this is not me saying, oh, with not getting on one accord and having the same plan. That's exactly what you kind of have to do. And that requires you not being as rigid, so that you can come up with a plan together of how your life could, work out. Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, rigidness, one of the expectations is, pet peeves. People got pet peeves when they come into relationships. Let those things go. But work and communicate about them. Like, one of the pet peeves I have is when there's clothes all over the floor.
Yes, our
we
kids.
just, or either each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I get what you're saying.
Because because we often at times come in the house and jacket is on the ground. My kids do that a lot. Just talk and communicate. Hey guys, we need to pick this up. If your spouse does that, hey honey, could you
Mhm.
not put your shoes at the door, because when I walk in, I fall down all over. You know,
Right.
your feet are too big.
Communication. Yeah, that's why the lack of communication is a red flag, because when you lack that communication, when you don't take the time to express what's going on, what could be done, what the change that can happen, there's no way that you guys can then work towards the solution so that everyone is comfortable in the relationship and
Right.
everyone feels heard
Right.
and respected at the same time too.
And I'm interested in seeing how people with obsessive compulsive disorders work out their relationships when it comes to rigidness.
Yeah.
I just realized by me being, my wife, I communicated to my wife, my obsessive compulsive disorder is having a complete set of something.
Yeah.
I can't stand it if I
Yeah.
have something and it breaks. Like a pen, like the pen top, the clip part of the pen. If that's broken, I don't even want the pen no more. Or either now they got the stylus that on the top of the pen. If that's broken, I don't even want it no more. So that's like a compulsive thing that I have. If something breaks around the house, I'll go ahead and just go out there. I'm so hard pressed to go out there and find a complete item of it and replace it. I'm so hard pressed about that. So that's my rigidness as far as the relationship. So I think I actually, discovered that while being with my wife, that I don't like something being incomplete.
Yeah.
As far as like a set of something, it just gets on my nerves,
But that's also too on the lighter scale of rigidness, because it can get intense to where somebody is telling you, oh, we have to wake up at this time and you going to the gym with me because I go to the gym at this time, and then we're going to do this at this time. And oh, I eat my eggs this way, so we got to have her eat our eggs this way. And if you don't make my eggs this way, then I'm going to cuss you out. Because we don't, that type of rigidness is a big red flag. Something else, like something as small as, oh, I like a certain thing, like maybe folding towels a certain way, like being able to compromise on little stuff like that isn't so much a big extreme issue. That's why I said it's really too about being able to come together and merge those lives.
You hit it on the head. The word is compromise.
Yeah,
people. So that's the way that you get around rigidness, is by compromising.
Yeah.
It's okay to compromise. You have to compromise in a relationship, because if not, it's not going to work out. So we're giving out free game here, y'all. The red flags.
Yeah, spotting them early so you can know what to prevent happening in your relationship based off of you not doing these things and not allowing them to be done to you.
Yep, right? Free game.
Yep. So next up was dependence and conformity, requiring that someone give up their autonomy. And it requires the following of rigid relationship rules. That applies to, like we were just talking about, the rigidness, but also it can demand that some of the struggles be kept, secret in the relationship, and like even from trusted and supportive people, I guess, even like going to therapy and stuff like that, like not even allowing your spouse that own, release. However, emotional support release, however they can do that way. That's really important too, that you don't stop your spouse from their healthy forms of self-care. That is just personal within them too, because that is kind of like, I guess you don't want to make your spouse your therapist in a way, because some stuff you want to have a safe space to feel like, okay, let me be able to go ahead and communicate and talk about this and work this out and figure this out, for myself first, so that I can show up whole in my relationship and then work out whatever issue I'm having with my spouse.
Right. Yeah, because also too, that's another thing to think about too. And I learned this with my wife early in our relationship, is that I'm not her therapist. No matter how much I love to fix things and I think that I can fix things, I'm not her therapist. So I can't tell her not to go out and seek help, or you don't need any help. You don't need nobody to, help you. Ain't nothing wrong with you. So don't dismiss people like in that way. And then also too, trying to tell them that they don't need something when they're lacking it,
Yeah.
And let them go out and get that self-care and that help that they need, and help them to
be a better person.
Yep, and fix their traumas in their life.
Because sometimes you can't help, and sometimes you don't need to help in that way. Just simply being there for that person and allowing them the opportunity to say, hey, I need this. You support me doing this, be that supportive person while I do this. That can really make all the difference in
Mhm.
how a person can heal and move through a situation. So,
Right.
yep, big red flag to watch out for. Kind of something different too you wouldn't really think about either.
No, not at all. I mean, a lot of these that we have mentioned so far as contempt, suspicion,
Lack of
lack of
communication,
communication, dishonesty, impatience, rigidness. Rigidness and probably dependency and conformity are probably hidden, and we probably don't pay attention to those.
Yeah.
Now, maybe more so rigidness, especially when
Strict. Yeah.
yeah, when things are strict and you got to go by the guidelines and schedules of your spouse every
Yeah.
time. So there has to be some flexibility there.
Yeah.
So number 8, lack of reciprocity
Yeah.
is when one person insists that their stipulations be met, but is unwilling to consider someone else's needs,
Mm.
acts that rules be broken for them, or rarely contribute to shared work. So lack of reciprocity.
Yeah. Not putting in the same energy.
Yep.
Yeah, you notice that person is not putting in the same energy that you were putting in, like big red flag. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
most
a
definitely,
given.
y'all.
That's
If
definitely a
you're
given.
putting into the relationship and you're not getting equal output, then you really need to consider communicating to your spouse about that. And if they're standing you down about that and they don't want to change, you're only setting yourself up for being in a miserable relationship. To
Or
be
even
honest
just
with you,
dating.
right?
Like just dating, if you see that you're putting in
Well,
all
yeah,
this effort
effort.
and this person is not even hitting you back, they said 6 hours and gone by, you hit this person up, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, granted the fact, okay, you would know somebody's work schedule,
Right.
but if it's consistently this person is not giving you the same energy and you know it and you feel that within your gut, it's time to back off.
Right.
Big
That's a
red flag.
level of respect to me, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Big level
When you're
of
courting
respect.
somebody, you're just meeting somebody, and then the energy level is high, it's up here, and then all of a sudden they just drop off the face of the earth and they don't hit you back. And then now they're controlling the communication, the line of communication. So they're only talking to you when they want to be talked to, or whatever the case may be. There's a big red flag that they're not interested in you and they have multiple suitors. So that's something that you all need to pay attention to. So if you see that red flag, go ahead and just cut them off.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm gonna
don't
be
do
honest
that
with
to
you.
other people too.
Right.
If you know you aren't interested in this person, don't waste their time. Don't keep not paying attention to them when you don't want anything to do with them. And then when you're bored, you decide, oh, I'm going to answer their text message or their call or whatever
Right.
because I'm bored and now the opportunity is prime. No, that's still toxic. Like,
Right.
don't do that. That's not right.
Right.
That's taking advantage of a person. Just tell a person, you wouldn't want that done to you. So same thing,
Right. And
don't do
you
that.
probably see that a lot on those dating website situations where you're hitting someone up in their inbox, or either, and then you made it so far to getting text messages and calling these people, and then all of a sudden in a couple of days you can't get in touch with them.
Yeah.
That is something that's real, because you got to understand that all these people are communicating with each other through that dating website. They all see each other and share, you all see each other and see the pictures of each other. They're all talking to each other and trying to get with each other. So you have to, you're competing with multiple people for their time.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get that. There's going to be a lack of reciprocity as far as time.
If they're not genuine.
Yeah, if they're genuinely not interested in you, solely in you. So, that's a challenge whether you're going to accept it or not.
Right.
And
even still dating too, I guess, because some can be saying like, oh, but if I'm dating, I need to, have my options still like that, just space that out. Like, make sure you're if you're nurturing those relationships, make sure you're giving them that time before you decide, okay, narrow it down. Who am I really considering? Don't still be the one that's not putting in all the energy and expecting, the person to still be by your side, ready to jump on it whenever you hit them
right
up,
because what you're doing, like the reciprocating of time and attention is not, it's an ebb and flow. It's up and down. But it's not consistent. People are looking, people who are really interested in you are looking for consistency from you. Vice versa, you're looking also too for consistency in your spouse. So when you're noticing that it's disrupted, you're not getting the same attention and the time that you used to get, that's a red flag. You can waste your time and energy in asking why or what's going on. Yeah, go ahead and see what happens and see what you say. More than likely, they're probably not going to tell you the truth, especially in those boyfriend girlfriend relationships. they're not going to tell you the truth because they're not obligated to you, whether
Yeah.
you think so or not. There's no rings on your finger. You all haven't made any commitment,
Yeah.
but if you're in a relationship, a committed relationship, and these things are going on, recognize these as red flags.
Hmm.
This is something you need to talk about and do something about
Yeah.
before it
Big
gets out of
time.
hand.
Big time. Well, up next is the lack of empathy. So that's a big one. I think our society in general, which I'm glad about, is becoming more open to understanding empathy and how you are. It's healthy to care about how you're affecting someone else and also how they are feeling in their situation, putting yourself in their shoes so that you can then be kind and understanding to what's going on with them. So a lack of empathy within a relationship can be a big red flag because I think it really shows the maturity of a person. I think as young adults, we're not as empathetic because it's more survival. You're more figuring out life. You're more focused on yourself. But when you mature to a certain point in life, you're able to really consider another person's perspective openly so that you can then find resolution and common ground. Because, like we talked about with our last maturity post, you have to be able to understand that not everybody's going to think the same way and have the same point of views or share the same opinions. So, just being able to be empathetic is a big, big, big thing that you need to have within your relationship. And if you don't have that, big red flag.
Yeah, and I think that's respect, to be honest with you, to care about someone's perspective, their point of views.
Mm-hmm.
We all can agree to disagree about
Right.
things, but just be just be respectful to people's opinions and their point of view.
Yeah.
We all have an opinion. You just go ahead and hear them out and see what they got to say, and then that needs to be reciprocated.
Right.
Just like the last thing,
Yeah.
last point that we pointed out, it needs to be reciprocated. But empathy, by far, I think that's a new thing that people are learning about within the
Mhm.
past probably 10 years. Empathy,
Mhm.
just understanding why people feel the way that they do.
Mhm.
We're not asking you to feel like they like they do.
Right.
You don't have to
Right.
feel like they do, but you just need to understand why they feel the way that they do. And that goes back to that hormone video that we had put out. That was so important, and we got a lot of good feedback from that because not a lot of people understand each other,
Yeah.
and that there's other contributing factors to why people feel the way that they do.
Yeah.
Whether man or female.
Mhm.
But we gave you the game on that and how to work around those hormones, and
Yeah.
just understand that is going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
there's a full moon tonight, some crazy going to happen tonight, but that's the reason why. We're not asking you to feel crazy like whoever's going on, what's going on around you,
Yeah.
but what we're asking you to do is understand that there's going to be some crazy. Just understand there's going to be some crazy, and where it's coming from.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And on the main point, yeah, lack of empathy. Definitely big red flag, lack of empathy.
Right.
So next up is a lack of appreciation. It's kind of definitely goes with the lack of empathy and the lack of reciprocation, lack of appreciation. If your spouse or the person you're dating is not appreciative. I think I saw a video most recently, and it was a couple, was a man and a woman. I think they were just dating, not quite a couple yet. But the woman was like just being so rude to the waitress that was serving her and her date. That within itself was such a big red flag to me because I'm like, wow, you don't even appreciate the simple service that you're receiving in a restaurant.
Mhm.
How could you even be respectful and even know how to appreciate a man or a woman? Like that's like, it's just bad. Just lack of appreciation and overall love of life and appreciation for life in general is a big red flag. I don't think that a person can really understand what they have if they don't appreciate it, and they definitely then will probably lose it. So yeah.
I mean, I would even extend that, and also showing gratitude.
Yeah.
Showing gratitude when there's a lack of appreciation. The opposite of that is showing gratitude. Say thank you. My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
We society today, a lot of people don't even say thank you anymore.
Yeah.
That's probably the reason why a lot of people like going to Chick-fil-A, because all the employees,
Got good
what they
manners.
say, what is it that they say? It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah.
We don't normally hear people say that, every day.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing there's a great appreciation for you here.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. So Lack of appreciation by far is one of the red flags.
Yeah.
You know, especially, you know, if you're in a relationship with alpha type people, you may be in the situation where, you know, they may take you for granted.
Mhm.
Being taken for granted is a red flag.
Mhm.
Don't let people take you for granted or take advantage of you.
Yeah.
Y-
Especially for the betas, because
Right.
you was talking about the alphas. The betas are mainly the ones that often get taken don't get the appreciation that they deserve
Right.
for all the work. They're
Right.
always doing all this work and nobody's
Un-
saying thank you.
Unless you don't mind. I didn't mean to cut you off, but unless you don't mind those type of
Yeah.
situations,
You
which
shouldn't.
you
That's low
shouldn't,
self-esteem.
and that's a lack of
Yeah.
appreciation. That's usually why I don't encourage. If you're a beta person, by far, you know, get some confidence about yourself. You
Yeah.
know that you're worthy. Know your
Mhm.
self-worth.
Yeah.
You know, but that makes it harder for those alpha type mentalities. You know, just be kind. Be kind
Mhm.
and show appreciation for your spouse or who you're dealing with.
Mhm.
You know.
And when you're dating somebody too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just go for all human beings. You know, just show
Yeah.
appreciation for everybody.
Mhm.
It sets a great example that
Yeah.
that people that it shows loved ones and friends and family that that you care. You know,
Mhm.
that you really care. So when you're showing signs of lack of appreciation, you making the other person feel small and as if you really don't, you know, care about their, you know,
Mhm.
well-being or their point of view or who they are.
Mhm.
So just be mindful of that.
Or
Appreciate.
and appreciation too can be a motivating factor of making somebody want to keep doing something. When
Right,
they
exactly.
feel appreciated, they'll feel like, yes, like I'm being noticed. Like, this is good. I will want to keep doing this.
Right.
Even something as simple as like listening to your spouse, or if you're like noticing that somebody allows you the opportunity to vent or whatever, like just being
Your safe
appreciated.
space.
Yeah, giving you a safe space, being appreciated, of that. Like, that's sweet, because then the person, especially if it's your man or your woman, will then recognize, hey, my spouse likes this. Like, let me keep doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
And then another red flag.
Lack of growth.
Lack of growth is found in red flag relationships.
Yeah.
If minimizing mistakes is the priority, that leaves no room for learning and changing. Now, I believe in risk management,
Yeah.
and that is minimizing risk, but this is minimizing mistakes.
Yeah.
So, what you want to do is minimize risks. That doesn't necessarily mean lack of growth.
Right.
Lack of growth in a relationship to me means not being appreciative, lack of empathy. It's all of these lacks. So when you're lacking growth in your relationship, you're not allowing your spouse to feel welcomed in the relationship, not allowing them to have an opinion in the relationship, not giving them a safe space to communicate with you about things or issues in the relationship, not allowing them to find help when they have trauma in their relationship. That's that which dependence and conformity, the issue there.
Yeah.
Always trying to control your spouse is a lack of growth.
Yeah, lack of being a good person. When I think of growth, I really think of the self, and not the lack of being mindful and how I am behaving and the things that I am doing, and how am I constantly improving. Like, am I going back? Am I regretting sorry, but going back and
Digressing.
reversing back into those bad behaviors
Or
that I may have,
regressing.
regressing, into those bad behaviors that I may have learned in the past from, unhealthy relationships, whatever, a toxic childhood, kind of regressing back to those and not ever growing into the point where now I know how to communicate in a healthy way. Now I know how to do these things in a much better way so that I can have healthier, relationships overall. So just not growing as a person is super big within a relationship, because how in the world is the relationship going to grow
Right.
if you just stay and never improve on who you are?
Or either
Yeah.
supporting change in your relationship as
Yeah.
far as like if your spouse is advancing in their career, supporting that type of change, or either just supporting your spouse until they advance in their careers
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
trying to stunt their growth in their careers by giving them negative feedback or insulting them. And then what was that first one? The
Contempt.
being contempt towards them by being sarcastic to them
Yeah.
constantly and just being mean to them in that type of way.
Yeah.
The lack of growth is detrimental to a relationship, because if you're trying to raise a family, your family is not going to grow as
Mm.
far as trait good personality traits, um, just being healthy communicators,
Yeah.
those type of things. So you're gonna suffer in the area of communication and happiness
Yeah, and life
overall.
is change. Literally, that is life. Every part of change is constantly, every part of life is constantly changing. We're evolving. We have to grow. If we stay the same, it's like you're just stagnant. And what do they call that? You're flatlined. What do they call that? You might as well not be living, basically.
Mhm.
So you really have to go with life and just grow with life. And women, I often hear sometimes they complain about how the man is not growing or how you're growing more than the man. And those, especially if this is somebody that you've been with for a while and you've already kind of noticed that, man, they're not, doing their full potential like I know that they could. It's okay to be encouraging in those times versus being what my husband was talking about in the beginning, the sarcastic, the
Alpha
humor,
type mentality.
the harsh humor, the hurtful humor where you kind of put them down. Why aren't you doing this? I'm doing this. Why aren't you doing this? It's kind of counterproductive to what you want, because you actually want your man to do these things. You actually want your man to get it together and,
Be supportive.
yeah,
Just be
yeah,
supportive.
support that growth so that it can really happen. Like when you put a seed in the ground, you don't stomp on it and be like,
Right.
why you ain't growing?
Right.
You
And the
gotta
reason why they're
water
not
it.
growing, I don't
Yeah.
mean to cut you off, but the reason why you're not growing is because it's you. It's you not being supportive enough. It's you lacking inspiration upon your spouse, upon your mate. Because what type of man is going to want to wake up in the morning and go to work and be the best that he can be when he has an overbearing wife at home telling him what to do, and ridiculing him and telling him what he's not doing right
Not
all the time,
appreciating what he is
right,
doing.
not
Yeah.
appreciating him, and then vice versa. The husband, like, what type of, how can your wife grow and be providing you with support and being your helpmate when you're not giving her compliments, when you're not being nice and kind to her,
Yeah.
when you're not protecting her and providing for her?
Right.
How is your relationship going to grow when you all are not
Mhm.
operating within your roles
Yeah.
supportively?
Mhm.
How?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
someone call in and tell me how.
Right.
Because I don't see that happening, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. And that's what's happening with these relationships with people today. But that's one of the reasons why they divorce, because of the lack of growth.
Yeah.
It's not, marriage isn't always about excitement.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, to burst anybody's bubble,
Yeah.
but it's all about, supporting each other
And growing.
and
That
growing.
creates the excitement, I think.
Right.
Just the ever
The ride of the
changing,
life,
yeah, the ever changing life. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
because
So
it's
true.
exciting when your loved one is, has gotten a raise from work
Mhm.
or has gotten a new job to help support the family, and all of that came from your helpmate.
Mhm.
To be honest with you, because if your helpmate wasn't there making your lunch, cooking you dinner when you got home, or taking care of the kids, or
Telling you
also,
good job.
yeah,
Mhm.
giving you support, or
Mhm.
either, I mean, if they themselves may had to possibly work in order to get you all in that situation where y'all are at today.
Yeah. The things that you do for a person. Like, yeah, just
Right.
be appreciative of that.
And if you all are already in relationships, reflect on the growth of your relationship. Look at
Mhm.
that happened um step by step.
Yeah.
Where you are today, and if you're in a good healthy relationship, where you all are today is a reflection of where you all came from.
Mhm.
There was growth there.
Mhm. Yeah, and I've got to throw this in. This is a call-in show because that's a great thing for people to hear, giving a platform for people to hear the growth that a relationship had to go through. Because a lot of times we just see the beautiful side of it, that you never get the inside. Like what did y'all have to go through, the growth and stuff. So of course y'all will hear ours throughout this time because we got a lot to do. We're
Right.
gonna be together Monday through Friday, 8:30. So but for real, all y'all too, just call in and be able to give a good example too if you're in a healthy relationship as well. For the single people tuning in, like how can they recognize growth, what that looks like? Because some people really think it just, if you get into a relationship and it's all peaches and cream and it ain't no growth, y'all just here, made it,
Going through
and
the
that's
motions.
it. Yeah, no, you really do. Yeah, there's a big part of growth that has to happen within a relationship, and a lack of growth is a red flag. So,
Yep.
yep. And our last one
Is poor conflict resolution. Includes
yes.
yelling or physical harm, misplaced blame, defensiveness, overgeneralizing, a
Mm-hmm.
need to win. And also, I want to put in there assuming, making
Yeah,
assumptions.
assumptions.
A need to win, forgetting to listen to other persons, making assumptions. Oh, yeah, it's already in there. Making assumptions, attacking someone's character, and refusing to discuss problems. By far, that is a relationship breaker. That means you no longer want to allow this relationship to go on. You're going to shut down and be like, you know what? I don't want to hear it. I'm always right. To hell with you. I don't,
Yeah.
whatever you're saying, don't want to hear it. That's a complete shutdown in the relationship. By far, that's probably the
Mm-hmm.
most obvious red flag. If you're dealing with somebody like that, run.
Yeah.
Men, women. If you're dealing with somebody who has poor conflict resolution skills, someone who just can't sit down at the table with you to discuss how did we get here
Mm-hmm.
and what can we do to fix it. Let's work on this.
Or
And-
somebody runs away.
right.
Don't even want to do that. Like, just won't
Just
even.
it's not going to work out. Ideally, if you're in a relationship or you're dealing with somebody who's dating you with intention and they love you, they're going to do whatever it takes for it to work. Trust me, they are, because
Yeah.
they're sold on the relationship. They're sold on being with you. Relate Arguments are only just like I said, a blip in time.
Yeah.
We all gonna get through it. You resolve it. Talk, first talk about it, resolve it,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be gone. You
Yeah.
know, that you don't have to overgeneralize and say, "Oh, you always do this when this happens.
Mm-hmm.
You always do this all the time. Y'all do this. You do this. You do that."
Yeah.
No, we don't want. Men don't like hearing that. Same thing like women. Women don't like hearing that either.
Mm-hmm.
But you just can't overgeneralize and say always. Stop saying always. That's not always true. That's not true.
Yeah.
Because that means that when that person is minding their business, watching TV, they're always doing something wrong. That's not true. Stop that. Stop it.
Yeah. Generalizations can be really, really
It's not
extreme.
true.
Yeah. And poor conflict resolution is like a big one, I guess, especially in the dating phase. So you can kind of see how a person will handle things if they blow up over the small things. Boy, wait till the big things.
Right.
Like that's scary.
There's
You don't
underlying
wanna-
there's underlying issues with people do that. They've got some sort of childhood trauma that they didn't grow up from or got resolved. They're running from something.
Yeah.
They don't like to admit that they're wrong. Don't like to have accountability for their actions. They're going to blame you for it. Those are traumas that they need to figure out themselves. So those are red flags that that person the issue is not you. The issue is the person who's defensive, misplacing blame, who's causing physical harm, who's consistently yelling and overgeneralizing.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with them. Don't come out and say that, of course you're going to say something's wrong with you. Just say, can we talk about why you're overgeneralizing, and then see if there isn't if you see an underlying issue, try to express that they may need some help, some additional help that you can't give them.
Yeah.
And then this red flag situation, relationship's not going to grow. There's a lack of growth there if they always being defensive. Then you may need to step back from that relationship.
Yeah. And then also for yourself, self-reflection moment. Like yesterday, how we talked about self-reflection, we always say is a big tool for growth. So just paying attention to your relationships and how they begin and how they end. So if your relationships have ended and there's never seems to be a resolution with your conflicts, they're just bad conflicts and you can't figure out why, really take a time to look within and seeing am I doing some of the unhealthy behaviors? You know, am I the one that maybe needs to take a step back and see, like, wow, like, do I have good conflict resolution skills? What do my conflict resolution skills look like? Really go back and review the last time you had an argument, especially if you're not in a relationship and you're single, your relationship skills are kind of rusty. So think back, how was your last argument when you were in, you know, a conflict with a spouse? Because if you haven't had that, do you even know what you're going to look like? One of the tips that I do in my wife economics course is to actually do an exercise where you will write down kind of some things that may trigger you or may make you upset, and kind of write down first how you would respond right off back. You know, if you're upset, how this would make you feel, like, you know, such and such and such. And then how you would respond if you had the time to step back and really think and really analyze, you know, what would I do in a healthy way if I had the situation happen to me, right? So just doing that will kind of give you a clue of, where my conflict resolution skills lie. Am I doing unhealthy behaviors? Am I doing more healthy behaviors? And it kind of gives you a heads up for if you're actually in these situations, you can say, I had this thought. I know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to act out in that unhealthy behavior like I usually would. And I'm going to choose my healthy behavior that I thought about was going to be the choice of thing that I was going to do. So mindfulness, that's a big, big exercise that I like to do within our course too.
Yep.
Yeah. So, wow, that was a whole lot of red flags. That was what, 12 red flags? You want me to run through them real quick?
Yeah,
you want to run through them? Okay. So for those tuning in, we're going to wrap this up. Our red flags was contempt, suspicion, lack of communication, dishonesty, impatience, rigidness, dependence, or conformity. Okay. Lack of reciprocity, lack of empathy, lack of appreciation, lack of growth, and lack of conflict resolution. So big red flags, look out for them.
Right. And so if you see these in your relationship, try to rectify them. If your spouse is not trying to do that, you know, yeah, that's it. Your relationship is stunted.
Yeah. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to get some
management,
help first before you end it.
Yeah.
But normally relationships that have these issues are very hard to grow.
Especially more than one.
Right.
That requires some real work. And we're not saying that things can't be done, especially if you're already in a marriage. I don't want to say that a person can't move on from toxic behaviors and grow.
They just need to be made aware.
Yes. And that's what this does. Create awareness of what these red flags are, you know, being aware of them so that you don't do them to other people and you don't have them done to yourself. So glad we did this. And you know what? Tomorrow, guys, we have an even better topic because we're going to talk about the green good light flags, like the green lights. Yeah. We haven't quite figured out what we're going to call it, but it's going to be something like that, like the green lights, probably like the ones that tell you it's all in.
When
like,
you know that somebody is interested in you. So we're going to give you those information, those jewels, drop those jewels on you tomorrow on when you know that person is dating with intention with you. We're going to show you what that looks like.
Yeah.
So we're giving you today what it looks like when the person is not interested in you, or there may be some situations that you need to rectify, point them out, see if we can make this thing work. If they don't, then it don't. It's not going to work out. But these are red flags. If you see these red flags, you know, and you have options, you might want to exercise your options. So,
and if you're already in a relationship, y'all got some work to do.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate our viewers tuning in.
Like, subscribe, please. Thank you guys so much for your support. We're going to keep at it. We're growing. We're new to this, but we got some great things coming up because as we get the hang of this, we're going to keep evolving and growing.
We didn't get any questions, did we?
I don't think so. I looked. I
checked the
don't
chat.
think so. Yeah.
Check the chat.
I can't really see our Instagram.
We had a chat.
Oh, we do got some chat. What's up? What's up? Hey, y'all. What's up? We love you guys. Oh, this is so much sport. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
We love y'all for sure. All right, we'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right, peace.
Let me tell you this music.